Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amin, and this is my husband, Tom, and we're going to be leading the yoga class this afternoon. Before we get started, I just want to say how grateful I am to Corey for this opportunity that she has provided to me for hosting this class for the Belonging Project. So before I get started, I just want to let you know what is the Belonging Project. Well, the Belonging Project is a national effort to support and build community among diverse law students, attorneys, and their allies to combat the impacts of COVID-19 on diversity in the profession. It brings together legal industry partners to provide tools, resources, and programs to support the continuing personal and professional development of the diverse legal talent. It brings the power of Ubuntu to the universal bond we have as a people and the focus on collective responsibility to the legal profession. So thank you, Corey, and also Rebecca for reaching out to me for this. So before we get started, I just want to do a few introductions and a little bit of housekeeping before we get right into the yoga class. So my name's Amin, and I'm a partner at a law firm in Canada, and I'm also the founder and yoga teacher at Beyond Yoga for Lawyers. And we have been doing this practice of yoga that we're going to share with you today, myself for 8 years and Tom for 4. And so Tom is a litigator in Canada as well. And so the yoga practice that we're going to share with you today is not at all about how far you can stretch or about whether or not you can touch your toes. We're actually going to focus on breathing. And if you can breathe, you can do this class. And we're going to have a few options for you. So it's really up to you. This is your class and you can tailor it as you want. I can't see you, so either lucky for you or unlucky for you, I can't see you, but I encourage you to tailor the class whatever works for you and for your body. The yoga that we do is a yoga of no pain. So it's not about, again, how far you can stretch. If you have a knee injury or sensitivities in your back, then I ask you to make sure that you are paying attention to that and aware of that as we go through the class. If there is anything that causes you pain, that you immediately come out of that position. And you can either sit if that works for you, or you can even lie down, whatever works for you. So I just want to do an equipment review before we get started for some things that you might want to have close by and also some alternatives that you can use. So we have with us today, we're going to use a strap. So I had indicated that you can also use a belt. So if you have a belt that goes with a coat, you can use that. If you have one on your robe, for example, those are also awesome ones as well. You can even use an exercise workout band. That will work too. The other thing we'll be using are blocks. If you have them, great. If you don't, we have some substitutes. We only have a few different exercises with some blocks, but you can also use a textbook. A binder might work. So you might just want to have those kind of handy nearby. The other thing you will want is a blanket for the end of the class, just so you can cover yourself up and keep warm. For the practice we're going to do to really get into the body and into running energy, it's really important to stay warm. That's also why I suggested that you have room temperature water. So that's kind of why it helps with circulation, right? Rather than having freezing cold water. So I think that covers all of my intro stuff. I should also note that there's good news for those of you who signed up. It got CLE credit certified today. So later in the class, I will share that code and let you know how you go about doing that. So we're going to start with legs up the wall. So you also want to have a wall close by and a little bit of space around wherever you are. So we'll start with that. Legs up the wall is our first spot where we're going to start today. So if I didn't already say, Tom's going to be the demonstrator. That's kind of why I have Tom here. And I'm going to be helping on guiding you and walking through what you can expect to come, some tips and pointers on how to do things, how to get into the body. I'm going to be doing that. And so that I'm focused on you and giving you that support, I've asked Tom to help me with this so he can just demo and so you can watch him. So if you either watch or if you know how to do legs up the wall and you're good with that, then go ahead and get started. So we're going to focus on legs up the wall. Get yourself shimmied in as close as you can to the wall. And then I just want you to close your eyes and just come come into today's class. So here we are. I don't know if you're in the office or if you're at home, if you've made a yoga room for yourself at home, or if you're just in a bedroom or in an open space. But I encourage you to just bring yourself to this room. Give yourself some grace and some love for coming and joining today's class. I know that things come up, especially for lawyers. You know, last minute things pop up and you get pulled here and there, or you're always trying to, you know, burn out those fires. So congrats to you for making it here today. So if you have knee pain or knee issue, or they're tight, feel free to bend your knees and bring them into kind of a diamond shape if that feels good for you. What I want you to focus in on is melting into your mat, resting the back of your head onto the mat, feeling the ground beneath you, and feeling your spine as if it's melting into the ground and into your mat, and that you're getting so relaxed. And just letting go of whatever was before this, and knowing that after the class is over, it will still be there and you can deal with it after class. So now what I'd like to do is 3 deep breaths, just to bring ourselves really relaxed and into this position. So we're going to do 3 inhales and exhales together. And if you can make them guttural, so like put them into your belly, like don't worry about sticking your tummy out, whatever. Nobody else is there around you, so just do your thing and let it all out. And we're going to make some noise. Tom said that I was inappropriate last week in my breathing, so I'm going to be more appropriate today, but here we go. So inhale and exhale. So really just let it all out and exhale all that you've got. Inhale and exhale. So let it all out. One more. Exhale. So really letting it go, melt onto the mat, let it all out. Take a few breaths before we move into our next pose. So as you're doing that, I'm going to let you know what you're going to want and what we're doing next. Again, Tom is demonstrating and I'm going to walk you and guide you through. Because again, I can't see you, so I'm going to do my best to provide you with all the verbal support that I can. Also, if you have any questions that relate to any of the poses, sequences, that sort of thing, I'm trying to monitor the Q&A box. So if I see anything, I'll get to it. But if it's something other than right leg or left leg, I can't promise a response in the next kind of hour or so together. So what we're going to do is you might want a block or a textbook or whatever it is that you have, or a binder, or you can use your imagination. That works too. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some pelvic raises. So what that means is Tom's going to bring his knees together, feet on the wall, and then you're going to put a block in between your knees. And the reason for the block is so that your knees don't kind of just flop out, which is our tendency if we're not kind of controlled and working on the inner thighs. So what you want to do is you want to line up your knees, perfect. And then what you're going to do is he's going to bring up his pelvis, so bring up his bottom off the mat. He's going to go to his edge as far as he can go. The idea is to bring the weight of your body to your shoulders and rest it on your shoulders. Once you've had enough of that, you're going to exhale out and you're going to come down vertebra by vertebra. So the point, what we're trying to do is to slowly come down and really get into each of the vertebrae in our spine. So that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to kind of create space in the back, right? For those of us who are sitting all day or sitting half time from a lot of the day, laying on the couch, that sort of thing, we want to try and create some space and length in the back. So again, you're going to come up at your own breath, come up, inhale. You're going to feel that tension in your shoulders, right? So we're trying to let go of all that computer strain as well, and just kind of let it melt and be in there, while also keeping our knees together and exhaling whenever is right for you. So I hope that you've now tried and you're doing it. If you haven't, now's the time to get started because we're going to do 3 more together. Again, your inhales and exhales might be a little shorter or longer than ours, but just go at your own pace. But if you want to follow along, here we go. So inhaling, bringing your pelvis up as high as you can go and as comfortable for you, and exhaling whenever you're ready and bringing it down vertebra by vertebra. I like to close my eyes and really to feel into each of my spine bones that are there and just like really feel and melt them in to the ground. Again, coming back up. Perfect. And then whenever you're ready, coming back down. Vertebra by vertebra. And you should start to feel a little bit of length in your back. And if you do, you can kind of wiggle out from the wall if you feel that you are creating some space and you need to kind of shimmy your shoulders back. And then one last time, coming up. And exhaling. Perfect. Feeling every vertebra that goes down, or at least trying to. Mine don't come down one by one by one. They kind of come down in chunks, but you know what? We do what we can do on every day. And just noticing that. So we're just going to pause here for a moment and integrate. And you'll notice we'll integrate after a lot of our sequences together. Just to let it kind of settle in and for us to experience all the things that may have come up. For me, sometimes I experience warmth, so I get hot, whether that's in my hip flexors, in my back, in the front of my body. Sometimes it's tension. Like sometimes when you go up, you can really feel the strain. I do in my upper chest area. And I just notice like how it kind of, you know, it is definitely at my edge when I'm there. So just inhaling and exhaling at your own time. And just feeling all the feels. And if you didn't have any feels, that's totally normal too. But just being open to it. Great. So now if you want to roll over onto your left side or right side, depending on what space you have, we're going to slowly make our way back up to a seated position. So feel free to grab any water. We're going to now move to the next pose that we have for you. So Tom's going to demonstrate this one. I think it's important to watch the demonstration because this one's a little bit harder to explain. So all the ones that kind of involve a little bit more, I'm going to try to make sure we do a demo so you can watch, and then we're going to do together. So we're going to do it in fast mode, fast forward, but we are going to go through it, but when we do it together, we'll go a lot slower. So the next one we're going to do together is going to be a shoulder stretch. It is a fan favorite and one of my favorite shoulder exercises. It is slightly intense, so we're going to give you 2 options, and we're going to do both together, but if one is better for you, then I encourage you to stick with that one and don't move on. In terms of props that you might want some blocks, even a pillow, something like that nearby if you need it for support. So Tom, if you want to get started, we'll demonstrate on one side and then we'll do it together. So what you're going to do is you're going to lie down on one side, and I'll let you know what side that is when we get going. You can either go into a 4 position, which is where your bottom leg would be straight, and your top leg is in a number 4, or as close as you can get to a number 4. Or the other way, if it's most comfortable for you, is to put your knees together. If you're someone whose knees hurt when you put them together, feel free to put like a pillow or something soft in between your knees so they're kind of rested and relaxed. We want to feel good in these positions. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start with this shoulder. So Tom's going to reach out forward just to kind of relax into this shoulder and to bring it ready for that intense stretch. And then what he's going to do is he's going to bring his hand over his body and he's going to follow it with his eyes and bring it onto the other side. And so you'll see I have the support for him because he can't, well, not that you can't. We want to be at our edge, but also not go too far where we stretch our shoulder too much. So you can put as many blocks as you need to kind of rest your arm, and then you'll bring it back. And so you want to follow your hand with your eyes as you're doing that. And that's the concentration piece for us that we're focusing on. Great. So we're going to do that a few times. So we're going to switch to that's position 1. So now if you can demo position 2, you might want to shimmy yourself down a bit. So we're going to go overhead, arm overhead. It's a little bit more than a semicircle. And what we're going to do is your eyes are going to follow your hand, going up ahead of your body, and then around your body, down all the way to your hip. And then you're going to bring your weight back up. And then you're going to go back and meet your other hand. So again, that's pretty intense. And so let's give it a shot. We'll do both of them together, but if one suits you better than the other, then feel free to do that. And so we'll do a couple on each side. So we're going to do it together. So I hope that you saw that. And we'll get started. So if everybody will just stay on the side that Tom's on. So we'll stay with our left side of our body laying down on the mat. If you want to bring your hands out in front of you, straight or as straight as you can make them. Your knees in a comfortable position, right? So whether you're in the floor or you're in knees both together, we're going to get started. So we're going to have our eyes follow our hands. And we're going to bring it down to our edge. So our edge is like basically kind of where it feels like there's a little bit of tension and we like it because it's stretching, but not too far that we hurt ourselves. And then you're going to bring it slowly back. And you want to make sure that you're breathing right. We don't want to forget about our breath. Our practice is not so much focused on that you have to inhale and exhale at specific points, although sometimes that's helpful. But it's more about just remembering to breathe. And if you feel tension in your body, to send breath there. Great. So Tom's done 2. So we'll do one more together. And the slower you go, the more you get into those places that are really hard and infrequently do we stretch and really get into. Great. So now we're going to do the overhead, but we're going to let that integrate for a moment. And I'm going to use integrate a lot, but basically it's just experience all the feelings. Maybe it's none, maybe it's warmth, maybe it's tingling in your shoulder, maybe it's a little bit of a sharpness in your back. Just pay attention to whatever you're feeling. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move to these circles around the body, right? So we're going to go around into an almost circle. So we're going to start by going over our head. And again, your eyes are following your fingertips or as close as you can get. Some of us can't touch the ground. And so that doesn't work for us. So come as far as you can. And then you're going to make your way back up. Again, the slower you go, the more intense the stretch will be, the more you will probably feel it. I also encourage you to, if there's a certain place that it really feels like tight or that you want to work or that you can feel that breath needs to be sent there, to take a moment and see if you can send some breath. So maybe just pause and just kind of stop and breathe and send breath to that spot. And if you're not noticing any sort of release or it's just getting worse, then I would suggest like just move on, like move on from that spot and we can try it a different day. And so we'll do one more together on this side. Perfect. Great, we're gonna let that integrate for a few moments before we turn over to the other side. So I want you to notice how this shoulder feels after we've done this shoulder stretch. It should feel, I know this is probably your first time doing this type of shoulder stretch. It's probably going to feel a little bit tingly, A little bit more open, hopefully. I also sometimes notice that like our shoulders come down, like so our shoulders are often very high up near our ears. Sometimes you'll notice that they'll come down a little bit. So now what we're going to do is we're going to flip sides. So you go on to your left side, right side, sorry. Right side, make a little pillow with your right hand if you'd like. Put your legs into a 4 if that works for you. So that would be your right leg, which is closest to the ground, would be straight, and your left leg would be in a bent position, like into a 4. If that doesn't work, put your knees together, grab your pillow, put it in between your knees if that feels good. And then place your right and left hand over top in line or parallel to your shoulders. We're just going to get that shoulder stretch in there. So we're going to reach forward with our left hand. Again, just to warm up the shoulder. So you're just reaching forward as if you're trying to reach for something, and then bringing your shoulder back in place. And again, doing that just a few times at your own pace. And coming back. Great. So now we're going to clasp our hands together, and we're going to do a few of these together on this side. So again, lifting up your left hand, your eye following, Isa following. Going to your edge. So if you need blocks on the other side, or if you need a box or a pillow, set that up for yourself. And again, going at your own pace, your own breath. The slower you go, the more intense it's going to be. The more you'll really get into the muscle and into all that's going on there and tension that's possibly built up. And we'll do one more. Perfect. So we'll just let that integrate for a moment. Inhaling and exhaling, closing our eyes. Noticing how that felt. Are you noticing that it's tighter, more flexible than the other side? Because now you will have done already one side. So is your left side harder to move? Is it going as far? Is it not going as far? Is it way easier on this side? So just noticing, what you're feeling and what the difference is between your left and right side. I have quite a difference in my left and right side. One side is super flexible, fingers can touch the ground, whereas my other side, not happening. So what we're going to do is we're now going to go overhead. So we're going to start with that. So you're going to strip your fingers above your head, following with your eyes, coming behind you, watching your eyes, and bringing your fingertips down to your bottom, and then reversing and going the other way. Again, the slower you go in certain spots, potentially, the deeper you'll get into those spots. Following your fingertips as closely as you can. Going around and just noticing, where is it tight? Is there tightness? Tightness sometimes feels like you can't move in that area, like there's a lot of resistance in the body to wanting to do that. So whether your fingertips are touching the mat or the ground, or they're not, or they're up, it's totally normal. So we'll finish up on this last one. So at your own time, bring yourself back to hands out in front of you, and we'll just integrate there for a moment. Feel free to, if you want to make an arm pillow out of your hand, feel free to bend your elbow and to rest on your arm. And we'll just breathe in and breathe out, just noticing the two different sides, any differences, similarities. Whether this pose and stretch is as awesome as it's cracked up to be. And then once we've done that, we're going to come to a standing position. So we're going to slowly make our ways to standing. I encourage you to slowly bring yourself up to a standing just so that you're not feeling dizzy or anything like that. Don't get a head rush. Feel free to grab some water. The prop you're going to need for the rib breathing that we're going to do is a strap. So any form of belt will do. So that's what you're going to want to have nearby. There is no demo for this one, so we're going to go straight into it because we think that we can explain it and show you at the same time, and you can just look into the screen and we can do a pretty good job. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our straps and we're just going to place it on our left shoulder because we're going to need it, but not at the current moment. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to mountain pose on our mat. So those of you who know what mountain pose is, feel free to get there and go there. For the rest of us, we're just going to bring ourselves onto our mat, feet planted into the mat, ground your feet, press into the ground. I kind of like to shake a little bit, bend my knees just so I can feel the ground really underneath me. Then I'm gonna lift myself up, bend my knees slightly. My legs are parallel in line with my hips, right? So I'm double checking to make sure that that's happening. That is good. I'm gonna make sure that my shoulders are open, slightly pulled back, right? For a lot of us, we're at the computer, and so I'm always hunched over all the time. So just trying to remember to, roll your shoulders back, keep it open here. You want to tuck your chin under or in. And then you want to imagine that somebody's pulling you up just slightly. And so you want to grow a tiny bit. And then we're just going to bring our hands down beside us, palms facing forward. And we're going to inhale and exhale a few breaths together. Mountain pose promotes calmness, stillness, and also stability. So as much as it doesn't seem like it's an active move, it actually is. There is quite a bit going on. Perfect. So now we're going to open our eyes and you can follow along with our rib breathing exercise. Again, another favorite. It's a favorite of mine. But also my dad tells me that it's not all about me. And so it's important to recognize other people. And so it has been a fan favorite of those who we share this yoga practice and this specific pose with. So here we go. We're going to place our hands onto our rib cage. So just under the chest area. Fingers in front, thumbs in the back. And what we're going to do is we're just going to inhale and exhale, but big long breaths as far as you can go each way. So here we go. We're going to fill up our hands on the inhale. So breathing out as far as you can to each side of the room, going separate ways. And then when you're ready to exhale, exhaling and bringing your hands back down to where you originally started. I like to close my eyes just so I can kind of zone in on that area and imagine filling my hands. So we'll go again once you kind of know what we're doing. Inhaling. So fill up your hands. And I want you to focus on filling the back of your hands and then exhaling whenever you're ready. And again. So I want you to focus on the back of your hands as if somebody was behind you and had their hands on your back. And you were filling up, or as far as you could, filling up left and right as far as you can go in terms of your breath, like going to your edge, and then exhaling and letting it all out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take it up with a strap and we're going to wrap that around just where our hands were. And we're going to cross the strap in front of us into an X. Position it again right where you were, so right under the chest area, along your rib cage. Into an X position, crossing it, thumbs on top. Basically, now the strap is going to act as those hands. So we're going to expand the strap as far as we can, left and right, and then bring the strap back in when we exhale. And so we're going to do this for a little bit together, and I'll just let you know some of the benefits of this pose and why I think it's so great. So here we go, inhaling. And exhaling whenever you're ready. And exhaling whenever you're ready. So as you're doing that, I'll just let you know why this pose is so awesome, this breathing technique. And it's that you don't need a strap to do this exercise. You can just use your imagination. And what we call it is, as much as I've referred to it as rib breathing, it's actually back breathing. There are breathing muscles in the back. And often, most often, we're all breathing through the fronts of our bodies, into our chest, into our stomach and diaphragm area, and it's all in the front. But what this does is it uses those breathing muscles in the back of your body. It forces us to do that and to really focus. There's a lot of concentration and focus that goes into this, which actually helps quiet what we call the habitual thinking mind, right? And as lawyers, we're constantly, or at least a lot of the time, worrying about a lot of things, whether it's files, clients, what's coming up, what's next, family, friends, all that sort of thing, the whole pandemic. And we're thinking. And sometimes our brains don't feel like they turn off. And so I find that this one is a really good one to kind of help me with that stress and anxiousness when I feel it coming. Just the concentration on the inhaling and the exhaling breath. So I'm just going to give you one little change if you want it, and that's to, when you inhale, to pause at the top of your inhale. So once you've gone, I usually go about 6 or 7, I think, seconds is what I count for my breath for this one. And then I hold at the top, and then I exhale and release. So if you want to give that a try. And one other thing that I ask you to maybe pay attention to is your left and right side balanced? So are they breathing out the same amount? Like, can you feel that? Or do you feel that one side is kind of not breathing, or as we call it, kind of being lazy and not going out as far as maybe the other side? And if you notice that happening, I want you to send some extra breath to that side and to send your mind kind of imagining that you're sending breath to that spot in your back. And after a couple of tries, that should help kind of even the both sides out. So this pose, when Tom and I did yoga classes together pre-pandemic, they were done in partners. And so you would have a partner who actually stood behind you and held your rib cage and helped you with the breathing of filling up the hands. And then they would also tap on the back, on your back, and let you know that if you were not, one side was not breathing as far as the other side, they would tap in that spot just to assist you. So we have to use our minds to do that now, because we don't necessarily all have partners who are willing to do that, or others with us who can do that for us in class. So whenever you're ready, we're going to bring our belt down, and you can just toss it to the side, and we're just going to let that integrate. Going to keep our eyes closed, feet grounded, knees bent, jaw soft, eyes soft. Just noticing if you feel anything. Maybe more space. Maybe tingling, maybe warmth. Maybe your mind was quiet for like 5 or 10 seconds. Okay, so you can open your eyes. We're going to move to our next sun salutation sequence that we have. So for those of you who have done yoga and know yoga, you are going to have no problem and know exactly what's coming up next. For those of you who don't, Tom is going to demonstrate. And so we're going to start with a demonstration first, just so everybody knows, again, in fast forward mode. Because if you haven't noticed already, we kind of spend quite a bit of time in the poses and in the breathing techniques. The idea being that we can get deep into the body, because just kind of flowing from one to the next doesn't necessarily give us that time to really get in and get deep. So we're going to move to that. So I'll just get set up with that. Feel free to grab some water if you want it. In terms of props, you might want your textbook, so blocks for the runner's lunge that we're going to do. And I think that's it in terms of props. And I'm just putting 2 on each side, or whatever height you might need. If you're flexible, you might not need them. If you are, flexibility is not your strength, then you may want more blocks, right? So you can stack them up however you need. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in mountain, which we've gone through already. So we're going to plant ourselves, get comfortable, all that sort of stuff. I'm going to get Tom to just come forward because you're going to step back. So we'll just go this way. Yeah, and then they can see you. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna come, we're gonna raise our, so we're in mountain. Eyes are closed, we're all zen and ready for a little bit of active movement now that we've done some breathing and some stretching and all that. So we're gonna bring our hands over our heads. Perfect, you're then going to exhale and hinge forward. Perfect, so you're gonna put your hands onto your shins if you can, or onto your thighs if you can't go that far. Perfect, so we're trying to go for a nice straight back. Head is lengthened, butt is pulled back, right? Perfect, then you're gonna come down forward even more. And he's assigning an inhale and an exhale breath to this as he's doing it. Perfect, then he's gonna bring his, I think we'll do left leg back into a runner's lunge. There you go. And so what you want to do is you don't want to collapse in the hips, right? Because the tendency is to fall into our hips. And so we want to make sure there's that. And our knees are, yes, there you go, perfect. Not going beyond our toes. Perfect. Then he's going to bring the right leg back into a plank. Perfect. You can get rid of these. There you go. And then he's going to come down. And then we're going to go up into cobra. Invert your toes while you're doing that. There's 2 options of cobra that I want to give you. I do the lower one. So can you just show? Perfect. So that one's on your forearms. I like this one better because it's less strain on my back. So if that's where you are, great. If not, then you're up on your hands. Perfect. And then we're going to go into downward dog. Those of you are probably familiar with that. So we're going to pedal out our feet. Right. And we're going to stay here for a bit. And then we're going to do the other side and then finish in child's pose for that sequence. So, if you want to get set up for that, we'll then get started. And I just want to let you know that Tom and I are running a 10-week yoga program for lawyers starting March 24th, 2021 on Wednesday evenings. And so in that program, we're going to be going deep into each of these. And hopefully, as we're doing the program, I won't have to do so much talking. And so then that way everybody gets to kind of learn the principles and the basics and then apply them every week. So we're going to get moving on. I don't know where my demonstrator ran off to. So here we go. We're going to get started. You want to be at the top of your mat because we're going to be coming backwards. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves into mountain. Perfect. Close our eyes, bring our arms up, inhaling. Exhaling forward. Inhaling, stretching out as if somebody's pulling your head forward and your butt muscles are going back. You're then going to hinge and lean forward. And exhaling. Then we're going to put our hands down using your supports. And then we're going to bring our right leg back. And the reason of the supports on the side is so that you're not collapsed in your hip, right? So you want there to be space. So it's not about just like kind of flopping into your hip. You want to have space in here. Yeah, perfect. And you're looking forward, excellent. Then you're going to bring your left leg back into our plank position. So getting a little bit of ab exercise here. Then you're going to come down to cobra. So whether that's on your knees, that's what I do. You can come down on your knees. Coming up, perfect. And then coming up to downward dog when you're ready. So what you want to focus in on, again, is creating that space in your hips and imagining as if somebody had a strap, which is what we do in our classes together. Somebody has a strap and they're pulling with the strap, they're pulling your hips back and stretching and lengthening your back. And you want to keep your head in line with your back and your body. You want to bend your elbows slightly. You might need to bend your knees a lot or a little, depending. Tom has really tight hamstrings. And so for him, bending his knees like a lot is encouraged because it helps run that energy I was talking about at the beginning of class, prana. It helps run energy in the body because there isn't so much tension everywhere. And prana shows up as heat. So whenever you're ready and you've had enough of the downward dog, you can bring yourself down into child's pose before we move on to the other side. So we're just going to take some deep inhale and exhale breaths here, again, integrating. So what do I mean by that? I mean, I imagine melting into the ground. So just my whole body just releasing and just like melting into my mat and onto the floor. Just letting go, picking different areas of my body to just say, you know what, you can let go. You can relax. It's okay. You don't have to be on all the time. And I send some big inhale and exhale breaths either to that area or just overall through my whole body and just feel the ground. And I rest my forehead. So now we're going to come back up into plank. Bringing our right leg forward and stepping the left leg in and slowly rolling up vertebra by vertebra. Come back to a standing position. Perfect. Now we're going to do the left side. And again, if my pace is not the right pace for you, feel free to do it however works for you and what's best for you. This is your class. I'm just here to guide you. But if you want to follow us, then come on, here we go. So right mountain, we're going to bring our both hands up. Inhaling, exhaling forward. Hinging at the hips. Straight back. Head in line with your back. Perfect. And going down forward, folding in front. Or a forward fold. Or as far as you can go. Perfect. Planting your hands, coming down onto the left side into the runner's lunge. Left leg back. Perfect. So making sure your knee is not beyond your toes, that you're not sunk into your hips, right? Because it's way easier to be sunk into our hips because, like, why don't we want to just relax and hang out in our hips? So creating that space. Perfect. And breathing, right? So sending breath to your back. Imagine, or what we imagine is that there's a fire at your sacrum, so that's just at your lower back. We imagine that there's a fire there and that there's heat being sent up all along your back and your spine. Great. Bring your right leg back into plank. Perfect. We're getting a little bit of a workout. We're going to come down and then bring yourself up to your cobra, whatever works for you. You want to imagine your hip flexors are deep into your mat, right? So they're kind of stuck there. They're not hanging up too high. Perfect. Then we're going to lift ourselves up on your breath, and we're going to come into another downward dog, and we're going to hang out there for a little bit. So again, I'm going to reinforce, bend your knees if you have tight hamstrings, right? And the reason for that is because I want him running energy in his body. And so the way I can help that is by him bending his knees, softening on the front of the body, right? So what does that mean, softening in the front of my body? Basically, it's just kind of picking some spots in the front of your body, and I weirdly talk to it, and I say, like, it's okay to relax. Like, you can let go. And just breathe, like exhale it out. And you want to bend your elbows so that, you know, they're not like super stiff. You want to bend them slightly. Maybe your shoulders are starting to hurt now, so feel free to come down into child's pose. If you want to hang out here a little bit more, great. You want to try and pull your butt bones like out towards the back wall, and you want to create that space in your body. Yeah. So whenever you're ready, you can come down. We're going to integrate in child's pose. Perfect. So notice if you feel heat in your body, if you feel any tingling, if you feel any tension. What kind of tension is it? Is it good tension or tension that doesn't feel good? Melting your body, your forehead, if your forehead is touching the ground. If it's not, grab a block, put that on your head or a textbook, whatever it is that you've been using for support. Imagine your body just melting into the ground. I sometimes imagine like ice cream on a super hot day, just being put on a concrete sidewalk and just melting. That's the image that I'm going for with my body, to just melt into the ground. And I'm using my breath to help with that and to let go. So whenever you're ready, we're going to come back up into a plank. We're going to bring our left leg forward. Perfect. Bringing your right leg together and rolling up vertebra by vertebra slowly. Keeping your eyes closed. Hands beside you, palms in front, facing front. And again, just letting that kind of breath work go where it needs to go and to feel all the feels. Perfect. So now we're going to move on to a pose that goes as part of this combination, and it's going to be center fold. So what you are going to want in terms of props is your blocks. And we are going to do a quick demonstration. It's not a sequence, it's just a pose. So for those of you who know it, feel free to start and to get into it. For those who want the demo, here's the demo for you. What you're going to do is you're going to separate your legs out. They are in line with your shoulders, so perfectly, if you drew a line, your feet would be underneath you, perfect. And then what you're gonna do is you're going, what you're gonna do is you're going to, it's basically like you're trying to get in mountain, right? So like bring yourself back, feel the ground at your feet. And I've decided I don't want to do just the forward fold. I've decided I want to do the wide-legged forward fold. So if you don't mind, thanks. Sure, we'll do it that way. Okay, okay, okay. The wide-legged forward fold. So that's what we're gonna do. So your legs are apart, perfect. Body's in line, hips are in line, perfect. Shoulders are back, toes are facing forward, chin is tucked in, perfect. Great, so we've got our alignment pieces figured out. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna hinge at the hips. And again, we're not in a hurry, right? We've got nowhere to go, nowhere to be. And so what you're going to do is you're going to hinge forward and slowly come where you bend from your back, and your back is stretched out in front of you. So it's the forward fold, but with wide leg stance. If you have tight hamstrings, quads, any of those things, you want to bend your knees. This isn't a class where you have to bend your knee or you have to keep your knees straight. I prefer that they're not locked, and I would encourage you to not lock your knees. So you want to bend them slightly. Perfect. Then what you want to do is you want to imagine that your pumpkins, as our teacher calls them, your buttocks, are both in line with each other. Feel free to send a hand or both hands back on your back, just to double check to make sure that your bones are both facing the back wall or whatever's behind you, that they're not like sunken down or, you know, too high up. So you want to imagine that you're going straight behind you. And then what you're doing is you're imagining that someone is slightly pulling you up and making you a little bit tighter or taller, not tighter, taller, and you're stretching your back out. If you haven't already started, I would encourage you to start. So maybe, Tom, if you want to come back up slowly whenever, okay, if you're ready, we'll do it together. Okay, so, and feel free, if you've already done it one time, it's kind of one of these things that we do over and over. Like you keep trying at your own pace. So do it and then come out of it and kind of just rest, and then you can do it again. So it's not just a one and done. It's we try it and we see what it feels like, and then we try a different thing, and we try something else, and we see how that feels. So here we go. So our feet are planted in the ground, perfect. Our body is all nicely aligned, perfect. So now what we're gonna do, we've got our eyes closed, we're gonna imagine we're hinging at our hips, sending our pumpkins to the back wall. We're being stretched out from our sacrum back and from our head forward. And then we know that we're gonna have the supports that we put down in front of us to rest our hands once we're ready and to get there. Feel free to bend your knees, right? That helps with running energy. So prana wants to be able to flow, but if everything is tight and armored and tense, not a lot is going to flow, right? So we need to be communicating with our body and saying, it's okay, you can let go, right? You can let go, you can relax into it. So there's a lot to think about as we're doing these things. And so just pick one or two things. And again, relaxing in the front of your body. So what does that mean, right? Like releasing. Also, another way to run prana for me very easily is I imagine that somebody has their hand on the center of my back, so mid back, just below my shoulder blades. And I imagine that I'm sending heat to their body, like that I'm trying to warm up their hand. And I just send like, I'm not sure what it is, but I send kind of my mind and my body to just heat up their hand. I'm heating their hand up with my body. And I can tell I can feel heat. And so he's running prana, I can tell. And another way is to imagine that somebody has their hand on the front of your body, and imagine just melt. I know I keep using melting, but just imagine that like you're melting into their hand, as if somebody is under you and kind of catches you and you just fall into it. Like you just let go. Like, do you have that person who, like, when you hug them or when you see them, that they just come for you and they kind of just can absorb it all up for you, like all of your worries and everything, like you can just let go. That's the image that like I think about when I'm trying to run that energy or trying to access deeper in my body. Like just that person is like holding me and just I'm letting the weight of my world let go onto them. Perfect. So whenever you're ready, you can bring yourself back up, or if you've done it a few times because you had to come out, that's great too. We're going to come up and we're going to integrate slowly, slowly, slowly. So just take a moment to integrate. I like to put my hand on my chest for this one and my other hand on my tummy. Feel free to put both of your hands in prayer if that works for you. And just inhaling and exhaling. Some of you may have found that super intense, even though we weren't really doing much. But we were actually doing a lot, and there's a lot happening in that pose. So just let it kind of move around your body, take it in however and whatever it feels like. Perfect. So we have a few more movements we want to share with you before we wrap up the class. So what we do want to do is just let you know, again, we're sharing a lot in this class. I know that we're running from like one thing to the next thing. I'm talking quite a bit. I'm trying to guide you as best I can, and I know I can't see you and you can only see me. So I want to just let you know that if this is the kind of yoga that you're interested in and you do feel some benefits after the class and you want to dive in deeper, we do have a 10-week program. I also have big plans for retreats in the future, post-pandemic, to host them, you know, with an ocean view and all those sorts of fun things. So if you want to follow us along, you can on that journey. And then what I will do, actually now I have a note to myself to tell you the CLE code. So I'm going to move into that. And then what I'll do is we'll start into our walking meditation, which is next. So the CLE code that I have for you is SS as in Sam, 1237. So SS as in Sam, 1237. And then in terms of attendance forms, I can let you know that those are going to be accessible to you in a post-webinar email, so you can get that later on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to a walking meditation. We are going to demo this one because there are two options. I prefer one and Tom prefers the other. So what we compromised on was we would share both and you can pick whichever one you like better. So in terms of the demo, the first option, or option one, is basically going to be that you're going to match your inhaling and your exhaling to your walking. And so it really is just a walking meditation. It's basically just walking, but you're matching your inhale and your exhale, so your breath with your walk. So if you want to start on that, so you're going to inhale, pick your foot up. Exhale, you're going to put your foot down. Inhaling, pick your foot up. Exhaling, put your foot down. If you're someone who inhales and exhales quickly, then that may not be the timing that works best for you. If you're someone who wants to go really slowly and take it really deep, you can even do much longer breaths, inhaling and exhaling, and have a take way less steps. So what we want to do is you want to take the length of your mat. So you're going to walk to the end of your mat, and then you're going to turn around and you're going to walk back. And you're focused on your walk and your breath and timing them together. If you're like me, you get distracted on the inhaling and exhaling because you start thinking about all the things after. I encourage you to come back to your breath and just to kind of notice that you wandered and just bring yourself back. The second option that we have for you is more of a balance one, and it involves a little bit of kind of the ab movements and things like that, and trying to keep yourself steady. So what it is it's toe to heel. And what you're doing is you're inhaling and exhaling while you walk in the same way that I just described for the first one. But for this one, you're going to match your toe to your heels, which can be hard for some of us with where our balance isn't that great. And then you're going to walk backwards. And again, it's the length of your mat. So you walk forward and then you walk back. Yeah, perfect. So those are your two options. So we're going to do that together. And we'll get started now. So you can pick whichever one you like. And then we'll do this for probably 2 minutes. We have about another 30 seconds. So if you want to try the other one or the other way, feel free. If you want to continue with the one you're doing, great. Okay, so whenever you're done, you want to make your way back to either the top or the back of your mat. We're going to integrate, as you guessed. We love integrating over here. So I'm just going to let you integrate. Again, feel free to put your hands wherever they feel you need them right now. So maybe both of them are on your heart. Maybe one's on your heart, one's on your belly. Maybe they're at your side. Wherever they need to be. Inhaling and exhaling, just noticing. What, if anything, did you notice while you were doing that walking meditation? So I'll let you know a few things that one's good for. I find that one's really good to put your thoughts and mind, kind of all that thinking and worrying on pause for a moment to allow you to focus, right? Because you're either trying to balance or touch your toe to your heel or to concentrate on inhaling and exhaling when you're lifting or putting down your foot. So we find that one for, giving your mind a little bit of a break and focusing on something else can really help. The other thing is that it's so easy. Like, you don't need any props, you don't need anything. You just need a little bit of space. If you have lots of space, great, you can use it all. You can also do this one outside. So the way I see using this one post-pandemic is outside on a grassy field where there's no bugs, because I'm not a big fan of bugs. But you can just walk in your bare feet, and we all sort of start in a circle. and we're all just going at our own pace, but there's so much space, right? So you're not going to run into anybody. And we're going in a circle all together, just doing this walking meditation at our own pace. And then reversing the direction of that circle. And really just taking in the outdoors and our breath and focusing on that while having others doing the same thing to kind of keep us on track. While also watching our mind wander and then come back. So if you want to open your eyes, we have one more thing left before we go down to Shavasana. And this is again another favorite of ours and also of others. So what we're going to do is we are going to make our way down to the mat. In terms of props that you might want, you may want a blanket for Shavasana, an eye bag if you have something nearby to cover your eyes if you have like us, like the lights coming in, and then your mat. Yes. So what we're going to do is you're going to want to roll up your mat. So for those of you who have thick mats like Tom and myself, I'm just going to see if I have the other mats. I do not. So if you have thick mats like ours, you don't want to go too far. You're probably going to go about 1/4 of the way or 1/4 of the way, and you're going to roll it up really tightly. And I'll show you how far, and I'll come closer to the camera and show you how far the rolling should be. If you have a really thin mat, then you probably go about halfway, just under halfway. And so those are like the super thin yoga mats. Ours are just way too thick. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to lie our spine down on the mat. And we're going to kind of do a restorative pose of just hanging out there for a bit before we go into Shavasana. So this is about how far I'm going. There we go. So about that, it's about 2 toonies. I know that this is an American group that I have most likely, so toonies probably make, some of you may know what they are, but that's kind of about the size I'm going for. And what you're going to do is you're going to lay it down, and then you're going to put it, position it, and Tom's already doing it, but basically you're going to position it at your lower back. So you're going to start at your lower back, and then you're going to just lay yourself down straight onto it. So it's nothing complicated. So you want to position it so it's at your lower back, and then it finishes at your head. So you want to make sure that your head is supported. Your head shouldn't be thrown back, and your neck all out of whack. So we want to make sure that you're in alignment. If your head is not falling on the mat, then you want to maybe just shimmy yourself down so that it starts maybe a little higher on your lower back. And so what we're going to do is get comfortable here. Feel free to grab a blanket if that's what you need. I like to use a blanket to kind of just cocoon myself in and kind of just relax, and helps my body know that, you know, right now I can kind of just relax and let go and be. Feel free to bend your knees if you're someone who has lower back tension, or if you feel a little bit of strain on your lower back. Like for me, I do. When I do this one, what you want to do is you can try to bend your knees in so that they are, I'll show you, well, Tom will. So you bend your knees and bring them in. And you can even flop them in towards each other so that way they're not kind of just hanging out, and you kind of have a little bit more support. Perfect. So we're going to hang here for a few moments, probably a few minutes before we roll to Shavasana. So I want you to just relax. You've now done an hour class already. For me, time has flown by. I don't know if the same is for you, but I find that with this practice, there's so much demonstration, and when I can usually see you, there's questions and feedback and support and that sort of dialogue. So I hope that you are enjoying it or have enjoyed it so far, but we're just going to get comfortable before I let you go on with the rest of your day, whatever that might include. So you want to close your eyes, relax your eyes, relax your jaw. Just let it go, let your face like basically go. Stop trying to hold it all. Soften your neck. relax your shoulders. You should feel a little bit of a pull in your collarbone and in your shoulder area of your shoulders, just trying to reach for the ground. And for your spine, what you want to try to do, or what we're trying to do in this pose, is to relax our spine into the mat. So we're trying to make it so that all of our spine is felt on the mat. I have a little C curve in my lower back that I work on to get touching that back. So that's where my lower back, or my back, doesn't touch down onto the mat. And so if you notice that in your back, it's just something to notice, something that you can work on. But I just love this one because it really allows the spine and the back to just melt and relax. And it also at the same time opens up your shoulders, which again, from all the computer use, the cell phone use, right, we can find ourselves hunching forward. And so we just want to open that up. And then if you want a little support to get your spine onto your mat, what you can do is you can breathe into the front of your body. So I talked about this a few times this class, but it's about softening the front of your body. When I first heard that, I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit of support to help you. But basically, it's noticing. So for me, it's my lower back. So that means it's somewhere in my tummy area that I just need to let go, that I just need to relax, like I'm holding. Or as our teacher calls it, I'm armoring. So you want to let that go. So if you are good to stay here for the next minute or so of the class, then that's great. If not, then I'd ask you just to move your mat away and to bring yourself to Shavasana. Basically, that is just corpse pose, lying down. Again, just being comfortable. So I'm just going to wrap up while we're in Shavasana and just let you know some final things. So I wanted to let you know that the Belonging Project is hosting a March Effective Communication Series. It looks great. There's 4 of them scheduled. And so I encourage you to take a look at those and to sign up. Also want to thank you for coming and for joining us and allowing us to share our practice with you. If you want to find us, you can find us at the BeyondYogaForLawyers.com. That's our website. You'll find details about the program. If you want to sign up for the program, you can email me at my first name, Aman, A-M-A-N, at BeyondYogaForLawyers.com. I'm on Instagram, Beyond Yoga for Lawyers, and also on LinkedIn with my first and last name, Aman Costigan. So as we bring ourselves to a close here, Tom, if you just want to bring yourself up to a nice seated position, we're just going to finish in Namaste before we go. I don't want to let you go before I get to that. And so we just again want to thank you and thank you for sharing with us, and we hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Namaste.